Could you be deported? Whether or not as a green card holder, you can be deported with some new rules that came out in a memo. We want to separate myth from reality. In this video, we're going to break down how green card holders actually get flagged, what triggers enforcement, and why old convictions and mistakes can matter. Hi, I'm Coach Grandchild. I'm an immigration attorney that's been practicing for over 23 years, and I've helped thousands of green card holders navigate their cases successfully. A lot of the headlines make it sound like if you're in the United States, ICE could just come and remove you as a green card holder. The truth is that an immigration judge is the one that determines removal, not ICE, not the president, but an immigration judge. Now, this is different if you're coming into the United States. So when you're in the United States, that would be something that is called in immigration terms deportability. And when you're coming in, it's inadmissibility, which is a legal term like whether or not you can come into the US. So at the port of entry, that's why you see, for instance, there was a recent case where an individual was coming into the US and because they had a DUI, they were held and then they were transported to a holding facility. That was because they were coming into the United States. But if you're already in the United States, then there is a procedure to determine whether or not you're deportable. Let's talk about some of the most recent changes that have happened. The DUI doesn't make you deportable, but it does evaluate your good moral character when you apply for a green card and when you apply for citizenship as well. However, if you're in the United States, if you have a DUI, your green card will not be taken away, will not make you deportable just because you have a DUI, because the DUI is not a deportable offense. This administration is treating green card holders as individuals who have somewhat akin to a temporary status rather than what we've seen in the history of green card holders of having permanent residence. Regardless of that fact, while they chip away at green card's status as being a permanent, stronger status than a temporary visa, it's still the case that you cannot have your green card just taken away from you. You have to have what's called due process, which means that you have to have your case heard before an immigration judge. But keep in mind, that is only if you're in the United States. If you leave the United States, be very wary. So another factor that you should also be aware of, if you've not paid your taxes and you have an issue with the government and you're coming back into the United States, that could be an issue. Also, if you have 3 or more speeding tickets, that could be considered an issue as well. Again, that is coming back into the United States, or you could see this as an issue in evaluating good moral character if you're applying for citizenship and even possibly applying for your green card. Now you might be wondering, okay, well, what if I'm in the United States? How would I have my green card taken away? Well, let's look at the process of what would happen if the government tried to take your green card away. First, you'd be issued a notice to appear listing the charges. Then you'd be scheduled a date to have your case in immigration court and have your hearing scheduled. The government must prove deportability. Now you have a right to a lawyer. You don't have a right to a paid lawyer, but you do have a right to a lawyer. You're able to present witnesses and documentation, defending yourself. And if your case is denied, you have the right to appeal. Even if ICE detains you, a judge will review bond eligibility, evaluating whether or not you should be released. Courts also have the authority to override executive actions or executive orders. Now, one thing that's very interesting about immigration courts is that they are administrative courts and they're part of the Department of Justice. So they're not a separate judicial branch, they're actually part of the executive branch. What does this mean for you? Coordination with ICE could happen, but removal still requires legal grounds in court. So let's look at an example of a green card holder that's renewing a green card. It triggers USCIS review and they're suspected for fraud. USCIS investigates, notice to appear is issued. Here, a judge would still be making a decision on whether or not the green card would be taken away because of this fraud charge. Now, it's also really important to note when you apply for citizenship, they do go back and look at how you're getting your green card. So that is very important for you to be aware of. I see issues of prior fraud that have come up where sometimes not only is the citizenship denied, but the applicant also has to worry about their green card being taken away. Now, how do green card holders end up in court when entering the United States? Well, criminal convictions, fraud or misrepresentation, possible abandonment after long trips, and national security concerns. You can be flagged even if you have old sentences, and that's what's been coming into the news lately. People have 10, 20-year-old sentences. That's all of a sudden coming to light when they're coming back into the United States. Take Llewellyn Dixon, a 64-year-old that was detained at Tacoma after a 2001 embezzlement conviction. That was 24 years ago. Also keep in mind that immigration law treats convictions differently. Expungements don't wipe away convictions for many immigration purposes. Even withdrawn pleas or dismissed charges may still count, so it's really important to consult with an immigration lawyer if you have criminal charges, because even if you have something called diversion, depending upon that still may apply. Now, what about extended stays? That also could be a trigger as well. If you've been outside the United States for more than 180 days, you should be expected to be questioned and explain why you've been outside the United States. More than a year, there's a presumption that you've abandoned your green card. And if you do plan on traveling and have an extended amount of time away, you want to make sure that you apply for a reentry permit. Even if you apply for a reentry permit, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to come in without any issues. You need to still explain why you applied for that reentry permit, what was your extended reason of travel, why you needed to be outside of the United States. I hope by now you see some distinctions, and make sure you subscribe to continue to get these updates, and you can reach out to us at 916-613-3553. So there is a distinction between, for instance, having a DUI within the United States and whether that makes you deportable, or traveling back into the United States. You've learned that in this video. You also learned that you need to be really careful with travel if you also have tax issues, if you're gonna be gone for an extended amount of time, and that you are afforded due process within the United States. I hope this alleviates some fear and also makes you informed about future decisions. And if you wanna learn more about the green card process, check out our other green card videos on this YouTube channel. Thank you, and bye for now.